Bible tells us, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. This pattern of evening and morning continues. And on the third day we read, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit, after he sent the seed, whose seed is in itself, upon the earth. And it was so. Why do I emphasize this third day? Because it is on the third day that the invisible seed breaks through into visible manifestation. It is on the third day that what was planted in darkness first shows itself in the light of day. And it is after 3 days of faithful persistence in your new mental attitude that you will begin to see the signs of your imaginal acts taking root in your world. Most people quit too soon. They plant the seed of their desire through an imaginal act, but they do not persist until the seed breaks through the soil of their consciousness. Remember, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Your consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you become. But this transformation follows divine law, and divine law operates in patterns and cycles. I have discovered through my own experience, and that of countless students, that there is something miraculous about the third day. After 3 days of living in the consciousness of your wish fulfilled, something shifts in your awareness. You begin to notice signs, subtle at first, but unmistakable, that your imaginal act is materializing in your world. Let me explain why this happens. When you first assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are planting a seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. This seed begins to germinate immediately, though you cannot see it. Like a seed planted in the earth, it must first take root before it can fall through into visibility. The first day corresponds to your initial decision to assume that you already are what you desire to be. You clothe yourself in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You enter into the state of consciousness where your desire is already realized. This is not pretending or fooling yourself. It is far more profound. You are actually moving into a new state of being, and this state is as real as any experience in your physical world. The second day represents your continued faithfulness to that state despite the absence of any visible evidence. This is where most people falter. They look at the physical world, see no change, and conclude that their imaginal act was ineffective. They doubt, and in that doubt, they uproot the seed before it has a chance to grow. Remember the words of Scripture. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. On this second day, you must walk by faith, not by sight. But it is on the third day that something remarkable begins to happen. After approximately 3 days of faithfully persisting in your new state of consciousness, the seed that you planted begins to stir. It does not yet break through into full manifestation, but it sends up tender shoots that to the faithful observer are undeniable signs that the seed is alive and growing. These signs may come in many forms. Perhaps you overhear a conversation that confirms your assumption, or someone may make a remark that aligns perfectly with your desire. You might receive a call, a letter, or an unexpected opportunity that relates to your wish. These are what I call the signs following the early evidence that your imaginal act is bearing fruit. Why does this happen after 3 days? There is a principle in Scripture that points to this time frame as significant in the process of transformation and resurrection. Did not Christ rise on the third day? Was not Jonah in the belly of the great fish for 3 days before being cast upon dry land? These are not mere coincidences, but revelations of spiritual law. The number 3 represents completion in divine order. It takes 3 days for an imaginal seed to begin its journey from the invisible to the visible, from subjective to objective reality. This is not calendar time, but rather psychological time, the time it takes for your subconscious mind to accept and begin to externalize your new concept of self. I know this to be true not only from Scripture, but from countless experiences of my own and those who have applied this principle. Let me share with you an experience that illustrates this principle perfectly. A woman in one of my lectures was struggling with financial difficulties. Her business was failing, and she had reached the point of considering bankruptcy. After hearing my lecture on the law of assumption, she decided to test it. She began to assume that her business was thriving, that clients were seeking her services, and that prosperity was flowing to her abundantly. For 2 days, she maintained this attitude faithfully, despite her checkbook showing a negative balance and her phone remaining silent. There was no external evidence to support her assumption, yet she persisted. She went to sleep each night feeling the relief and satisfaction of a successful business owner. On the morning of the third day, she received a call from a potential client who had been referred by someone she had never met. By the end of that day, she had secured 3 new contracts worth more than enough to resolve her immediate financial crisis. Within 2 weeks, her business had completely turned around. But the signs began to appear on that third day. This is not an isolated incident. I have witnessed this pattern countless times. The seed planted in consciousness begins to break through into visibility after 3 days of faithful persistence. Now let me be very clear about what I mean by living in the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. This is not merely an affirmation or positive thinking. It is not visualizing your desire as something to be attained in the future. It is the full acceptance now that you already are what you desire to be. It is assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and living from that assumption. When you go to sleep at night, do not pray for your desire as something outside yourself, something to be gained. Instead, give thanks for already being and having what you desire. Fall asleep in the consciousness that your prayer is already answered. For sleep, my dear friends, is the entrance into the subconscious. As you enter the state of sleep, you are entering the state where all creation begins. Your subconscious mind does not argue or question. It simply accepts what you impress upon it as you fall asleep. If you fall asleep feeling wealthy, the subconscious accepts this as fact and begins to rearrange your world to conform to this impression. If you fall asleep feeling loved, the subconscious accepts this and begins to draw to you the evidence of love. For 3 nights, fall asleep in the absolute conviction that you are now what you desire to be. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of your desire already fulfilled. Do not allow any contrary thought to enter your consciousness as you drift into slumber. Your last thought before sleep should be the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. During your waking hours, whenever your mind is not occupied with the affairs of the day, return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Make it a habit to catch yourself in moments of free attention and use these moments to reinforce your assumption. If you find yourself thinking of your desire as something in the future, gently bring yourself back to the consciousness that it is already yours now. This is not difficult, but it does require vigilance. The human mind is habituated to thinking based on the evidence of the senses. You must train yourself to think from the end, from the state where your desire is already fulfilled, rather than thinking of the end as something to be achieved through time and effort. The secret is to persist until your assumption feels natural. When you first assume a new state of consciousness, it may feel strange, even false. This is normal. You have been accustomed to your old state, and any new state feels unfamiliar. But as you persist in your assumption, the new state begins to feel more and more natural, and the old state begins to fade. By the third day, something interesting happens. Your assumption no longer feels like an effort or a discipline. It begins to feel like the most natural thing in the world. You no longer have to remind yourself to think from your wish fulfilled. You simply do so automatically. This is a sign that your subconscious has accepted your new self-concept, and manifestation is now inevitable. At this point, the signs will begin to appear in your world. But remember, these are just the first tender shoots breaking through the soil. The full manifestation may still be in the future, unfolding in its own perfect time. Do not uproot the seed by returning to your old state of consciousness. Continue to live from your new state and watch as your world rearranges itself to match your assumption. Some people ask me, Neville, how can I believe something that is contradicted by my senses? How can I feel wealthy when my bank account is empty? How can I feel healthy when my body is in pain? How can I feel successful when my business is failing? My answer is always the same. Your senses show you the harvest of your past assumptions, not the reality of your being. Your true being is pure consciousness, and in consciousness all things are possible. Your physical reality is simply consciousness objectified. Change the cause your consciousness, and the effect your reality must change in response. To those who find this difficult, I suggest a simple exercise. Each night before sleep, imagine a friend or loved one congratulating you on the fulfillment of your desire. Hear their voice, see their smile, feel their handshake or embrace. Feel the joy of having your desire already fulfilled. Make this scene as real and as vivid as possible. Then, with this feeling of joy and gratitude, fall asleep. Do this for 3 consecutive nights. And on the 3rd day, watch for the signs. They will come. It is law. Let me emphasize this point. The signs may be subtle at first. They may not be the complete manifestation of your desire. They may be what appear to be coincidences or small shifts in your circumstances. But they are confirmation that your seed is growing. Acknowledge them with gratitude and continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. I have had students report the most remarkable coincidences on the 3rd day of their practice. One man who was assuming wealth found a forgotten check in a book he hadn't opened in years. A woman who desired marriage was suddenly invited to a gathering where she met her future husband. A writer seeking inspiration found himself awakened in the middle of the night with a night in his mind. These signs often come in unexpected ways. This is why it is important not to specify how your desire must be fulfilled. Plant the seed of the end result, the feeling of having what you desire, and let the infinite intelligence of your subconscious mind determine the how. Your role is to assume the state of the wish fulfilled. The means of fulfillment will take care of themselves. Remember, my ways are not your ways, neither are my thoughts your thoughts. The wisdom of your subconscious infinitely surpasses your conscious reasoning. Trust it to find the perfect path to the manifestation of your desire. Now, I must address an important point. Some people ask, what if I persist for 3 days and see no signs? My answer is, examine your assumption. Are you truly living from the state of the wish fulfilled? Or are you merely affirming it with your lips while your feeling contradicts it? Remember, it is not what you say, but what you feel that plants the seed in consciousness. If you are faithfully persisting in the feeling of your wish fulfilled and see no signs after 3 days, then continue your practice. The 3-day principle is a general pattern, not an absolute rule. Some seeds may take longer to germinate, especially if they contradict deeply held beliefs or if the desire is very significant. The key is persistence. As long as you continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled, manifestation is certain. The seed cannot help but grow if you keep it planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. I have seen cases where the signs appeared after a week or 2 weeks, or even longer. But I've never seen a case where faithful persistence in the assumption of the wishful failed to produce results. The law is infallible. What you assume, you become. This is the foundation of all creation. Let me share another remarkable experience that illustrates the power of persistence. A man who attended my lectures was suffering from a chronic illness that had plagued him for years. He had consulted numerous doctors and tried various treatments without success. After hearing my explanation of the law, he decided to apply it to his health. Each night before sleep, he assumed the feeling of perfect health. He imagined his doctor congratulating him on his complete recovery. He felt the relief and joy of being free from pain and limitation. During the day, whenever he noticed his symptoms, he would gently bring his attention back to the feeling of health and wholeness. For 3 days, there was no change in his physical condition. But on the morning of the 4th day, he noticed something remarkable. His usual morning pain was less intense. This was the first sign that his imaginal act was taking root. Encouraged by this sign, he persisted in his assumption with even greater conviction. Within 2 weeks, his symptoms had reduced significantly. Within a month, they had disappeared completely. When he visited his doctor, medical tests confirmed that his condition had inexplicably improved. The doctor called it a spontaneous remission. But the man knew it was the law of assumption at work. This brings me to another crucial point. When the signs begin to appear, they are confirmation that your imaginal act is bearing fruit. But they are not yet the full manifestation. This is where many people make a mistake. They see the signs, become excited, and then revert to their old state of consciousness, thinking their work is done. But the seed, though sprouting, is still tender and vulnerable. When you see the signs, it is time to strengthen your assumption, not abandon it. Give thanks for the signs as evidence that your manifestation is in progress, but continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. The signs are like the first green shoots breaking through the soil. They are not yet the full-grown plant bearing fruit. This is particularly important to understand because there is often a period after the initial signs when it may seem as if nothing more is happening. The visible signs may appear, and then there may be a period of apparent inactivity before the full manifestation. This is similar to the growth of a plant. The seed sprouts, visible above the ground, and then there seems to be a period of slow growth before the rapid development that leads to flowering and fruiting. During this period, persist in your assumption. Do not be discouraged by the seeming lack of progress. Underground, the roots are growing stronger, establishing the foundation for the full manifestation of your desire. I call this the interval of uncertainty, the period between the first signs and the complete manifestation. It is during this interval that many people lose faith and return to their old states of consciousness, thereby arresting the growth of their manifestation. It is like digging up a seed to see if it is growing. The very act of checking from a place of doubt uproots the seed and prevents its growth. Instead, trust the law. Trust that once the seed is planted and has begun to grow, its full development is assured as long as you do not uproot it at doubt and contrary assumptions. This is why persistence is so crucial, not just for the initial 3 days, but throughout the entire process of manifestation. Assume your desire is fulfilled now and continue in that assumption until it objectifies itself in your world. The time it takes for complete manifestation varies according to the nature of your desire and the strength of contrary beliefs, but manifestation is certain if you persist. Now, let me address an aspect of this law that is often misunderstood. The law of assumption works not only for material things, but for states of consciousness as well. In fact, states of consciousness are the foundation of all material manifestation. If you desire wealth, the material manifestation of money is the effect, not the cause. The cause is the consciousness of wealth. Similarly, if you desire health, the physical condition of your body is the effect of your consciousness of health. If you desire love, the relationship is the effect of your consciousness of being loved. Therefore, when you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not just attracting something outside yourself, you are actually transforming yourself into the person who would naturally have and experience what you desire. This is why the feeling is so important. The feeling of wealth, health, or love is the consciousness that manifests as material wealth, physical health, or loving relationships. This understanding resolves the apparent paradox of how something can manifest in your world that is not yet visible to your senses. It manifests because you have already become it in consciousness, and your physical reality is simply catching up to your consciousness. As Jesus said, "Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." Note the sequence: believe that you receive now, and then you shall have. The receiving is in consciousness, the having is in the physical world. This is why affirmations and visualizations often fail to produce results. They are performed from the consciousness of lack, from the awareness that you do not yet have what you desire. But the law responds to what you are conscious of being, not to what you want to be. The secret is to assume the consciousness of already being and having what you desire. This shift in consciousness is the true creative act. Once accomplished, manifestation is inevitable. Now, regarding the signs that appear, the 3 days of faithful persistence. These signs are the bridge between your invisible assumption and its visible manifestation. They are confirmation that the law is working, that the seed is growing. When these signs appear, rejoice in them. See them as evidence that your assumption is taking root in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. But do not stop there. Continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled until the full manifestation appears in your world. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this point. Many people, upon seeing the first signs, become so excited that they shift their consciousness back to one of wanting and seeking. They think, it's working. Soon I'll have what I desire. But this very thought implies that they do not yet have it, and thus contradicts their assumption. Instead, when the signs appear, silently acknowledge them as the natural result of your assumption and continue to live as if your desire is already fully manifested. This persistent assumption accelerates the process of manifestation and ensures its completion. Remember, the signs are not the manifestation itself, but evidence that manifestation is in progress. Just as the first green shoots breaking through the soil are not the mature plant, the initial signs are not the complete fulfillment of your desire, but they are confirmation that the seed is alive and growing. The appearance of these signs on or around the 3rd day is not arbitrary. It follows a universal pattern reflected in countless spiritual teachings. In the Bible, Jesus rose on the 3rd day. Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days. The resurrection is always preceded by 3 days of apparent death or dormancy. This pattern reflects a profound truth about the creative process. There is first the planting of the seed, your assumption, then a period of darkness or invisibility, the seed underground, and finally the breaking through into visibility, the first signs. This pattern is consistent throughout nature and spiritual law. But remember, the first signs are just the beginning of the manifestation process. The full manifestation unfolds in divine order, in what I call the natural interval of time. Some desires manifest completely within days, others within weeks or months. The time frame depends on many factors, including the nature of your desire and the strength of contrary beliefs. What matters is not the time frame, but your persistence in the assumption. As long as you continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled, the complete manifestation is assured. The law cannot fail. What you assume, you become. This is the foundation of all creation. I want to emphasize a point that many students overlook. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not just visualizing or affirming something outside yourself. You are actually transforming your self-concept. You are becoming in consciousness the person who would naturally have and experience what you desire. This is why the feeling is so crucial. The feeling of being wealthy is different from the feeling of wanting wealth. The feeling of being loved is different from the feeling of seeking love. The feeling of being healthy is different from the feeling of pursuing health. It is this shift in being that is the creative act. When you truly grasp this principle, you understand that manifestation is not about getting something you don't have. It is about expressing what you have already become in consciousness. The outer world is merely the reflection of your inner being. This understanding resolves the apparent contradiction between wanting and having. As long as you want something, you are affirming its absence in your life. But when you assume the feeling of already having it, you are affirming its presence. And what you affirm as present in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Let me share another experience that illustrates this principle. A student of mine desired a particular position in his company. It was a position several levels above his current role, and by conventional standards, he was not qualified for it. There were many others with more experience and better credentials who were also seeking this position. Instead of competing with them or trying to improve his qualifications, he applied the law of assumption. Each night before sleep, he assumed the feeling of already occupying the desired position. He imagined his colleagues congratulating him. He felt the satisfaction and responsibility of the new role. He even imagined the view from the office that came with the position. For 3 days, nothing changed in his external circumstances. But on the fourth day, he overheard a conversation between two executives mentioning his name. In connection with a new initiative, the company was launching an initiative that was directly related to the position he desired. This was the first sign that his assumption was bearing fruit. He persisted in his assumption, disregarding the fact that the position had not yet been offered to him. He continued to live from the consciousness of already occupying the role. 2 weeks later, he was called into his supervisor's office and informed that the company was creating a new position, one that hadn't existed before, that combined elements of the role he desired with some additional responsibilities. He was offered this position, which actually came with more authority and a higher salary than the one he had originally desired. This experience demonstrates an important aspect of the law. When you assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you may receive something even better than what you specifically imagined. This happens because the essence of your desire, in this case advancement and recognition, can manifest in multiple forms. The law responds to the essence of your assumption, not necessarily to the specific details. This is why I often advise students not to be too rigid about the specific form their manifestation should take. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and let the infinite wisdom of your subconscious mind determine the most appropriate form for its expression. Now, to summarize the process we've been discussing, first clearly define your desire. Know exactly what you want to be, do, or have. Be specific enough that you capture the feeling of already having it, but not so specific that you limit the ways in which it can manifest. Second, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Enter into the state of consciousness where your desire is already realized. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the joy of having what you desire. Make this feeling as real and as vivid as possible. Third, persist in this assumption for at least 3 days. Fall asleep each night in the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. During your waking hours, whenever your mind is not occupied with the task of the day, return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Fourth, watch for the signs that begin to appear around the third day. These signs may be subtle, but they are confirmation that your seed is growing. Acknowledge these signs with gratitude, but continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. Fifth, persist in your assumption until the full manifestation appears in your world. Do not be discouraged by the interval between the first signs and the complete manifestation. The seed is growing, even when you cannot see its progress. This is the law, and it cannot fail. What you assume, you become. Your consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you express in your world. I want to emphasize once more the importance of the feeling. It is not enough to visualize or affirm your desire. You must capture the feeling of already having it. The feeling is the secret. The feeling is the creative power. The feeling is what impresses the subconscious mind and sets in motion the forces that manifest your desire. How do you know when you have successfully captured the feeling? When your assumption no longer feels like an effort or a discipline. When it feels natural to be, do, and have what you desire. When any contrary thought or suggestion feels unnatural and uncomfortable. This is the sign that your subconscious mind has accepted your new self-concept, and manifestation is now inevitable. Many people fail to manifest their desires because they do not persist long enough for this naturalization to occur. They try the law for a day or two, see no immediate results, and revert to their old states of consciousness. But manifestation requires the seed to grow to maturity, and growth takes time. The 3-day principle I've shared with you is not arbitrary. It is based on the universal pattern of creation reflected in spiritual teachings across cultures and throughout history. But it is not a rigid rule. Some seeds germinate more quickly, others more slowly. What matters is your persistence in the assumption. If you have planted your seed through a vivid, feeling-based assumption, and if you have persisted in that assumption for at least 3 days, but still see no signs, do not be discouraged. Continue in your assumption. The signs will appear. It is law. And when the signs do appear, do not abandon your assumption thinking your work is done. The signs are just the beginning. Continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled until the full manifestation appears in your world. Remember, the outer world is a reflection of your inner state of consciousness. As within, so without. As above, so below. What you are conscious of being, you manifest. This is the great secret of creation hidden in plain sight throughout the scriptures and in the teachings of the mystics of all traditions. I am is the self-definition of the infinite. When you say I am, you are defining yourself, and what you define yourself as being, you become. This is why it is so important to be vigilant about what follows your I am. Every time you say I am sick, I am broke, I am unlucky, you are planting a seed that must grow to fruition. Similarly, when you say I am wealthy, I'm healthy, I'm blessed, you are planting seeds that must manifest in your experience. But it is not just your words that matter. It is your feeling. What are you conscious of being? That is the seed you are planting. And that seed will grow, bringing forth fruit after its kind. The law is impersonal. It does not care whether what you assume is good or bad, beneficial or harmful. It simply responds to your assumption, bringing into your experience the conditions, circumstances, and events that correspond to your dominant state of consciousness. This is why it is so important to choose your assumptions carefully. You are planting seeds with every assumption, and these seeds will grow and bear fruit in your experience. Plant the seeds of love, wealth, health, and success by assuming the feeling of these states now. Do not wait for them to appear in your world before you assume them. Assume them first, and they must appear. This is the secret of the ages, the mystery of creation revealed. You are not subject to the world. The world is subject to you. For the world is nothing more than your consciousness objectified. Change your consciousness, and you change your world. The signs that appear after 3 days of persistent assumption are the first objective evidence of this transformation. They are the early harvest of your mental gardening. Rejoice in them. Give thanks for them, but continue to sow the seeds of your desire through persistent assumption until the full harvest appears. Most people quit too soon. They plant the seed and uproot it with doubt and contrary assumptions before it has a chance to grow. But you, having heard this teaching, will not make this mistake. You will persist in your assumption, confident in the law that what you assume you become. 3 days is when it happens, when the invisible begins to become visible, when the seed sends up its first tender shoots. 3 days is when the signs begin to appear, confirming that your imaginal act is bearing fruit. But these signs are just the beginning. The full manifestation unfolds in its own perfect time as you continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. Remember, the creative power is in you. It is your consciousness, your I am. Use this power wisely, assuming the states that you desire to experience in your world, and persist in these assumptions until they externalize themselves in your experience. The law is infallible. What you assume, you become. This is the promise and the challenge of your divine heritage as a creative being made in the image of God. You are limited only by the assumptions you consent to and persist in. Change your assumptions and you change your world. In the coming days, test this law for yourself. Choose a desire, something you want to be, do, or have. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Persist in this assumption for at least 3 days. Watch for the signs that begin to appear. Acknowledge these signs with gratitude, but continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. Persist until your desire fully manifests in your world. You will find, as I and countless others have found, that the law works. You will experience the joy of conscious creation, of seeing your invisible assumptions made visible in your world. This is your birthright as a created being. Claim it now through the deliberate use of your divine imagination. Remember, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Think from the end, from the state of your wish fulfilled, and that end will manifest in your world as surely as night follows day. This is the law and the promise. 3 days is when you begin to see the signs. But the full manifestation unfolds in divine order as you persist in your assumption. Most people quit too soon, never realizing how close they were to success. But you, understanding this law, will persist until your desire is made manifest. This is the great secret I share with you tonight. Use it wisely, use it lovingly, and it will transform your life as it has transformed the lives of countless others who have discovered and applied this principle. The power is in you. The time is now. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and watch as your world transforms to reflect your assumption. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is your consciousness, your I am. Whatever you attach to this I am, through feeling and persist in, you manifest in your world. This is the law of your being, the law of creation itself. 3 days is when it happens, when the seed begins to stir, when the signs begin to appear. But the full flowering of your desire requires your continued faithfulness to your assumption. Persist and you cannot fail, for it is law, and law does not fail. You are the operant power in your world. No one and nothing outside of you has the power to determine your experience. Your consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you manifest. This is the truth that sets you free, free from limitation, free from dependency, free to create the life you desire through the deliberate use of your divine imagination. Test this law for yourself. Apply it to something specific in your life. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Persist in this assumption for 3 days and beyond. Watch for the signs, but do not stop when they appear. Continue in your assumption until your desire is fully manifested in your world. You will find, as I have found, that the law is true. What you assume, you become. And in this discovery, you will find the freedom and power that is your divine heritage as a creative being made in the image of God. Tonight, as you fall asleep, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Do the same tomorrow night and the night after. By the 3rd day, watch for the signs. They will appear. And as they do, rejoice in the knowledge that your seed is growing, that your assumption is bearing fruit, that your desire is manifesting in your world. This is the promise and the challenge I leave with you tonight. May you use this knowledge wisely, lovingly, and creatively to transform your life and the lives of all you touch.
In the silence of your heart, there is a truth that resonates louder than any voice. God's plan for you is unshakable. Life may throw its fiercest storms, people may try to dim your light, and circumstances may attempt to block your path, but nothing can halt the divine orchestration of God's will in your life. His plan is not dependent on human approval, nor is it swayed by the opinion of fear or actions of others. It is rooted in His infinite wisdom and boundless love. When challenges arise, it is easy to feel forgotten or lost. You may wonder if the setbacks you face are signs of failure or abandonment. But remember, the obstacles in your way are not detours away from God's purpose, they are stepping stones. They are tools He uses to refine your character, strengthen your faith, and prepare you for the blessings He has already set aside for you. No trial is wasted when it is surrendered to God. There are moments when people may doubt you, criticize you, or even stand against you. Their words may sting, and their actions may seem to delay your progress. But let this truth settle in your soul: no weapon formed against you will prosper, because God's hand is upon you. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who raised Lazarus from the dead, and who conquered death itself is the one who has written your destiny. His plan does not falter because of human interference. He has already accounted for every challenge, every delay, and every mistake. You are not defined by your past or limited by your present. God sees the full picture. He knows the dreams He has placed in your heart, and He knows the right time and way to bring them to fruition. Trust that His timing is perfect. It may not always align with your expectations, but it is always for your good. When doors close, it's not because you are unworthy, it's because He has something far greater waiting for you. When delays occur, it's not because you are forgotten, it's because He is aligning circumstances in ways you cannot yet see. Faith is the anchor that holds you steady as you wait. It is the assurance that even when you cannot see the path ahead, the one who leads you sees it all. It is the confidence that His promises are not empty and His plans are not fragile. Stand firm in that faith. Speak life over your dreams, even when doubt whispers otherwise. Declare God's truth over your journey, even when the road feels uncertain. Your life is not a series of random events, it is a masterpiece in progress. Every brushstroke of joy and sorrow, every layer of triumph and trial is part of a grand design. God is the artist, and He is not finished yet. Trust Him to complete the work He has started in you. He is the author of your story, and no one else holds the pen. When fear tries to paralyze you, when disappointment tries to dishearten you, and when uncertainty tries to discourage you, remind yourself of this God's plan, for you cannot be stopped. Not by people, not by circumstances, and not by anything in this world. His love is your foundation, His grace is your strength, and His purpose for your life is unshakable. God's plan is unshakable. This truth is a foundation that cannot be moved, no matter the storms or challenges that arise in life. His plan is rooted in eternity, crafted with love and wisdom that surpasses human understanding. It is not something fragile or uncertain, nor is it influenced by the circumstances we see or the opinions of others. God's plan is like a mighty river, flowing with purpose and power, carving a path even through the hardest of obstacles. The world often presents us with a narrative that we must be in control of every detail of our lives, that our destiny depends solely on our efforts, or that unforeseen circumstances can derail our purpose. But this perspective is limited, for it fails to recognize the sovereignty of God. His plan for each of us was established long before we took our first breath. The scriptures remind us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." These words are not mere encouragement, they are a declaration of certainty, a promise that transcends the temporal and anchors us in the eternal. There may be moments in life when it feels like everything is falling apart, as if the dreams we've cherished are slipping through our fingers. Doors may close, opportunities may vanish, and paths may seem blocked. It's in these moments that the strength of God's plan becomes evident. What appears to be a setback is often a setup for something greater. The delays and detours we face are not the end of the story, but chapters in the unfolding masterpiece of our lives. God's plan is not contingent on the conditions of the world or the cooperation of others. He moves beyond human limitations, working all things together for the good of those who love Him. Doubt may whisper that you are unworthy, that you have made too many mistakes, or that your time has passed. But God's plan is not dependent on your perfection. His grace covers your imperfections, and His power is made perfect in your weakness. The Bible is filled with examples of ordinary people who, despite their flaws and failures, were used mightily by God. Moses doubted his ability to lead. David stumbled into sin, and Peter denied Christ. Yet their destinies were fulfilled because God's plan for their lives was unshakable. He doesn't call the perfect, He perfects the called. This unshakable plan is not just for the grand moments of life, but also for the quiet, everyday steps of faith. It is active in the big decisions and the small choices, in the victories and the struggles. Trusting in His plan means releasing the need to control, and instead embracing the assurance that He is in control. It is living with the confidence that no matter what happens, His purpose for your life will prevail. God's plan is not just a hope for tomorrow, it is a reality unfolding today. Nothing in heaven or on earth can stop it. Obstacles are often seen as barriers, as reasons to doubt or give up, but through the lens of faith, they become stepping stones. Every challenge, every difficulty, and every moment of resistance is an opportunity for growth and transformation. They are not meant to deter us, but to strengthen us, to refine our character, and to prepare us for the next stage of our journey. God allows these moments not as punishments, but as purposeful parts of His divine plan, shaping us into who we are meant to be. When we encounter obstacles, it is natural to feel frustrated or disheartened. We might question why things aren't going according to our expectations, or why we seem to face resistance at every turn. However, it is in these very moments that God's greater purpose is at work. Challenges teach us perseverance, deepen our faith, and remind us to rely not on our own strength, but on His. The story of Joseph in the Bible is a perfect example. Betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and wrongfully imprisoned, Joseph faced trial after trial. Yet every obstacle he encountered was a step closer to the fulfillment of God's promise. What others intended for harm, God used for good, positioning Joseph to save a nation. Obstacles also reveal our hidden strengths and abilities. Often it is only when we are pushed to our limits that we discover the depth of our resilience and the power of our faith. Challenges force us to step out of our comfort zones, to confront our fears, and to grow in ways we never thought possible. They remind us that we are not walking alone, that God is with us, guiding us through every trial. When David faced Goliath, it wasn't just a battle between a shepherd and a giant, it was a moment of preparation for the leadership and victories that lay ahead. The obstacles in David's life were stepping stones, building his courage, trust in God, and readiness to fulfill his destiny. It's also important to recognize that obstacles often redirect us to something better. What may feel like a failure or a closed door is often God's way of steering us toward a greater opportunity. We may not understand it at the time, but hindsight reveals how the challenges we faced were necessary steps on the path to our calling. Think of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness. What seemed like a delay was God's way of preparing them to enter the promised land. Without the lessons learned in the wilderness, they would not have been ready to claim their inheritance. Obstacles demand trust. They require us to believe that God's plan is greater than our understanding, and that every step, even the difficult ones, is part of His purpose. They remind us to lean into His strength, to keep moving forward even when the way seems unclear. The very challenges that seem to block our path are often the tools God uses to shape us, elevate us, and propel us toward His perfect plan. Human interference cannot alter God's divine will. This truth is both reassuring and empowering because it reminds us that no person, no decision, and no opposition can derail the plans that God has set in motion. His authority is absolute and His purposes are immovable. While people may attempt to hinder, delay, or even work against you, their actions are never outside the bounds of God's sovereignty. What God has ordained for your life will come to pass, regardless of human attempts to disrupt it. People may try to discourage you, diminish your confidence, or convince you that you are unworthy of what God has in store. They may judge you based on your past, misunderstand your intentions, or resist your progress. Yet none of this can undo what God has already decided. His plans are not subject to public opinion or reliant on human approval. When God opens a door, no one can shut it. When He declares a promise over your life, no amount of opposition can nullify it. This truth was evident in the life of Jesus, whose mission faced relentless opposition. Despite the schemes of the Pharisees, the betrayal by Judas, and the disbelief of many, God's purpose was fulfilled. No human effort could stop the redemption of humanity through Christ. Sometimes the interference of others feels overwhelming. You may encounter betrayal, jealousy, or unfair treatment. It can feel as though people's actions are succeeding in holding you back. But remember, God is not surprised by any of it. He sees what you cannot see and knows what you do not know. He has already accounted for every challenge and every act of opposition. In fact, He can use these very things to advance His plan. What others mean for harm, God can transform into good. The story of Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem is a powerful example. Despite the ridicule and sabotage attempts from his enemies, the walls were completed because Nehemiah relied on God's guidance. Human interference could not stop the divine assignment. God's will is also independent of human cooperation. You don't need everyone to believe in you or support you for God's plan to succeed. He often works through unlikely circumstances and unexpected people. Consider how God used Moses, a man with a speech impediment, to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Pharaoh resisted time and again, but God's plan prevailed. Similarly, God used Esther, a young Jewish woman, to save her people despite the schemes of Haman. Human efforts to thwart God's purpose only set the stage for His glory to be revealed. It is easy to feel discouraged when others misunderstand or oppose you. Yet these moments are opportunities to trust in God's higher ways. His plans are unstoppable, His power unmatched, and His wisdom unsearchable. What He has set in motion cannot be undone by human hands. People may try to interfere, but they are ultimately powerless against the will of the Almighty. Every attempt to block your progress only serves to magnify His ability to accomplish His purpose in your life. God's timing is perfect, a truth that often challenges our human perspective, but ultimately brings peace when we embrace it. In a world driven by deadlines, urgency, and instant gratification, waiting for God's timing can feel like a test of patience and faith. Yet His timing is not random or delayed, it is divinely orchestrated, unfolding in a way that aligns with His eternal plan and our ultimate good. Every moment, every event, and every season is precisely positioned in the timeline of our lives to fulfill His purpose. When we look at life through our limited lens, we often desire things immediately. We pray for breakthroughs, opportunities, or resolutions, expecting them to happen on our schedule. However, God operates outside of time as we know it. His view is infinite, and He sees the entirety of our lives, the beginning, the middle, and the end. What seems like a delay to us is often preparation in His divine plan. He is not only preparing the blessing, but also preparing us to receive it. Just as a seed must undergo time in the soil before it can grow into a flourishing plant, there are seasons of waiting that are necessary for our growth and readiness. In the Bible, the story of Abraham and Sarah illustrates the perfection of God's timing. They were promised a child, but that promise took years to be fulfilled. Their waiting period was not wasted, it was a time of learning, trusting, and deepening their relationship with God. When Isaac was finally born, it was evident that his arrival was not just about fulfilling a promise, but about showcasing God's faithfulness and sovereignty. Had the promise come immediately, the magnitude of God's work in their lives might have been overlooked. The waiting made the fulfillment even more powerful. God's timing is also protective. There are moments when we feel ready for something, but God, in His wisdom, knows we are not. He may withhold an opportunity, not as a denial, but as a safeguard. If we rush ahead of His plan, we may encounter challenges we are unprepared to face or misuse blessings that we are not yet equipped to handle. His timing ensures that we receive His gifts when they will be most impactful and beneficial, both for us and for those around us. Joseph's journey from the pit to the palace is a profound example. Though his dreams of leadership were real, he had to endure years of trials before stepping into his role. Each delay was part of God's perfect preparation. Trusting God's timing requires surrender. It means letting go of our desire to control and embracing the assurance that He is in control. It is an act of faith to believe that His delays are not denials and that His pace is purposeful. During the waiting seasons, we are called to remain faithful, to keep seeking Him, and to trust that He is working behind the scenes. His timing is never late, and it is always worth the wait. What He has planned for us will come to pass at exactly the right moment. Faith is the foundation of our trust in God's plan. It is the unwavering belief that even when we cannot see the path ahead, God is leading us exactly where we need to go. Faith goes beyond mere optimism or hope. It is the certainty that God is who He says He is and will do what He has promised. This kind of trust is not dependent on circumstances, but is anchored in God's unchanging nature. Faith is what enables us to walk forward, even in uncertainty, because we know that His plan is perfect. Faith often requires stepping into the unknown. It means choosing to believe in God's promises when the evidence around us seems to suggest otherwise. Abraham demonstrated this kind of faith when God called him to leave his homeland and go to a place he did not know. Abraham didn't have a map or a timeline, but he trusted in God's word and obeyed. His faith became the cornerstone of his relationship with God and the fulfillment of the covenant that would bless generations to come. Faith, then, is not about having all the answers, but about trusting the one who does. Life is filled with moments that test our faith. There are times when the way forward seems blocked, when prayers seem unanswered, and when the weight of challenges feels unbearable. In these moments, it is tempting to question God's plan or to rely on our own understanding. Yet faith calls us to surrender our doubts and trust in God's greater perspective. The story of Peter walking on water is a vivid example. When Peter focused on Jesus, he was able to do the impossible. But the moment he let fear and doubt take over, he began to sink. Faith keeps us anchored, even in the storm, reminding us that God is in control. Faith is not passive, it requires action. It is not simply believing in God's promises, but living as though they are already fulfilled. When we act in faith, we align ourselves with God's will and demonstrate our trust in His timing and provision. The woman with the issue of blood acted in faith when she reached out to touch Jesus' garment, believing she would be healed. Her faith was the catalyst for her miracle. In the same way, our faith moves us to take steps, even small ones, toward the promises God has placed before us. Faith also brings peace. When we trust in God's plan, we no longer feel the need to control every detail of our lives. We can rest in the assurance that He is working all things for our good. This peace doesn't mean the absence of trials, but the presence of God's comfort and guidance within them. Faith transforms our perspective, allowing us to see challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities to grow and deepen our reliance on God. Faith is the bridge between God's promises and their fulfillment. It is what allows us to walk forward with confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, God's plan for us is good, and His purposes will prevail. God's plans for us are filled with hope, purpose, and victory, even when life's circumstances suggest otherwise. At times, the challenges and trials we face can cloud our understanding of His intentions, leading us to question whether the difficulties we endure have any purpose. But God's plans are not only good, they are divinely crafted to bring us closer to Him and to fulfill His higher purpose for our lives. His promises remind us that He is always working for our ultimate good, even when we cannot see it. The promise of Jeremiah 29:11 echoes this truth. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. These words were spoken to the Israelites during a time of exile, a season of hardship and uncertainty. Yet even in that difficult moment, God assured them that their suffering was not the end of their story. He had a future of restoration and blessings waiting for them. This assurance is the same for us today. No matter where we find ourselves, God's plans are steadfast, filled with hope, and focused on our growth. Life may often present circumstances that feel anything but hopeful. Perhaps we face setbacks, losses, or prolonged seasons of waiting that leave us wondering if God's promises will ever be fulfilled. It is in these moments that we must cling to His word and trust in His character. God's goodness is not negated by our trials. On the contrary, He uses them to shape us, strengthen our faith, and prepare us for the greater things He has in store. The Apostle Paul understood this deeply when he wrote in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. The victories that come from God's plans often emerge from what initially seems like defeat. The cross is the ultimate example of this. At the time, it appeared to be the end of Jesus' ministry, a moment of despair for His followers. But what looked like loss was actually the greatest victory in history. Through the cross, God's plan of redemption for humanity was fulfilled, proving that His ways are far higher and more powerful than we can comprehend. In our lives, too, what seems like failure or delay can be the groundwork for a divine breakthrough. God's plans also carry an eternal perspective, reminding us that our hope is not confined to this world. While His blessings are evident in our present lives, His ultimate goal is to draw us closer to Him and prepare us for eternity. The hope we find in His plans transcends temporary circumstances, grounding us in the assurance of His unchanging love. Every step of the journey, whether filled with joy or trials, is part of His perfect design for our lives. Even in the darkest moments, God's plans shine through with purpose and hope. His goodness, faithfulness, and promises are unshakable, giving us the strength to persevere, trust, and walk forward in confidence. The victory He has prepared for us is not just for today, it is for eternity, and it is certain. In the grand tapestry of life, God's plan is the thread that binds everything together with purpose, hope, and love. It is a plan that transcends our understanding, yet it is always for our good. Through His timing, His promises, and the unwavering assurance of His faithfulness, we are reminded that nothing, no obstacle, no delay, no challenge can hinder what He has ordained for us. Our role is to trust, to walk in faith, and to align ourselves with His will, knowing that He is always working behind the scenes. His plans are not just about achieving victories or receiving blessings, they are about transforming us, drawing us closer to Him, and fulfilling a purpose far greater than we can imagine. With God, we are never alone, never forgotten, and always on the path toward a hope-filled future. Let us hold fast to this truth, rest in His promises, and move forward with confidence, for His plans will always prevail.
Consider for a moment your imagination. You may perceive it as a fleeting daydream, a pleasant distraction, or at best, a tool for creativity. But I say unto you, your imagination is the very workshop of creation, the God-given power through which all things are made manifest. But what does it truly mean to trust your imagination? It is not a matter of indulging in idle fantasies or escapism. It is a state of consciousness, a shift in your very being that aligns you with the creative power of the universe. It is about recognizing that your imagination, far from being separate from reality, is the very substance and source of all that you experience. Let us delve deeper into this profound truth. Your outer world, every experience you have, every circumstance you encounter, is nothing more than a reflection of your inner world, your imaginative acts. And this inner world can be radically altered by learning to trust and use your imagination consciously and purposefully. When you understand this, truly understand it, you realize that by carefully choosing and vividly imagining your desired state, you are actively creating a new reality that will unfold in your experience. This understanding is crucial, for it shifts the entire paradigm of how you approach life. No longer are you a helpless being at the mercy of external circumstances, hoping for favorable conditions. You become the active creator of your reality, knowing that as you imagine and feel your desired state as real, the universe must rearrange itself to match this new inner vision. But how, you may ask, can one truly learn to trust their imagination when the outer world seems so solid and unyielding? The answer lies in understanding the true nature of your imagination. For your imagination is not a mere fantasy maker, and your inner visions are not mere daydreams. Your imagination is the very substance of reality, the clay from which all experience is molded. Let us take a moment to truly understand this. Your subconscious mind, which is one with the universal creative force, does not distinguish between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience in the outer world. It accepts as true whatever you feel to be true in your imaginal acts. And once it accepts an idea as true, it proceeds to bring it into manifestation in your physical reality, regardless of how long it takes in clock time or how impossible it may seem given current circumstance. So, when you learn to trust your imagination, when you fall asleep in the absolute conviction that your imagined state is real, you are not engaging in wishful thinking or self-deception. You are actively creating your new reality from within. You are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe, allowing it to work through you and for you to manifest your desires. This, my dear listeners, is the essence of learning to trust your imagination. It is about recognizing that the power to shape your reality lies within you, waiting to be expressed through your conscious imaginal acts. It is about understanding that your outer world is nothing more than a reflection of your inner imaginative acts, which can be radically altered by learning to trust and use your imagination purposefully. Consider the biblical phrase, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This is not a mere poetic expression or a vague spiritual concept. It is a statement of cosmic law, an invitation to recognize the power of your imagination. For what is faith, if not the ability to see and feel as real that which is not yet manifest in the outer world? When you truly trust your imagination, When you feel the reality of your imagined state with every fiber of your being, you are exercising true faith, and in that moment you are changed. The outer manifestation may take time to catch up, but the inner transformation is instantaneous. But let me be clear, learning to trust your imagination is not about forced visualizations or strained affirmations. It is about a total immersion in the feeling of your desired state being real. When you truly embody this practice, you naturally assume the thoughts, feelings, and inner conversations of the person you desire to be. You go to sleep not as the person bound by current circumstances, but as the person who is already living your desired reality in imagination. Let us explore this further with an example. Imagine a person who desires a loving relationship. Their outer reality shows no signs of this relationship manifesting. Now imagine this person deciding to trust their imagination completely. As they lie in bed, they immerse themselves in the feeling of being deeply loved and cherished. They feel the warmth of their imagined partner's embrace, hear loving words whispered in their ear, experience the joy and security of a fulfilling relationship. They allow this feeling of being loved to permeate every cell of their being. They fall asleep in this state, carrying it into their dreams. When they awaken, something has shifted. They may not see immediate external changes in their relationship status, but internally, they are no longer the same person. They have experienced the reality of being loved, and this new self-concept begins to reshape their outer world. In the days and weeks that follow, they find themselves naturally acting with more self-love and confidence. They interact with others from a place of fullness rather than need. They make choices that align with someone who knows they are worthy of love. And as they do so, their outer world begins to reflect this new inner state. They may find themselves attracting more positive attention, forming deeper connections, and eventually manifesting the loving relationship they had imagined. This principle applies to every aspect of your life. Whether you desire success in your career, improvement in your health, enhancement of your financial situation, or any other change, the key is to trust your imagination completely. Feel the reality of being the person who has what you want. Fall asleep in that state, knowing that as you do so, you are planting a seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind that must grow into your outer reality. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, can simply imagining a different reality really make such a difference? Surely we must deal with the facts of our lives. And to this I say, what you call facts are merely the fruits of past imaginal acts. In the realm of consciousness where all creation takes place, there is only the eternal now. By learning to trust your imagination and living from your desired state in your mind's eye, you can indeed reshape your entire future. For you are planting a seed of a new self-concept that will inevitably grow into manifestation. Remember, the outer world is dead. It has no life of its own. It is your consciousness, your imagination, that gives life to your experiences. When you focus on unwanted circumstances, you are breathing life into a reality you do not desire. But when you learn to trust your imagination and live from your desired state mentally, you are setting in motion a series of events that must culminate in the outer expression of this new inner reality. This, my dear friends, is the true secret to mastering your life. It is about aligning your entire being with a new concept of self, recognizing that this new self-concept is seeking expression through you, and allowing it to flow into your experience through the power of your focused imagination and unwavering trust in its reality. But let me warn you, learning to trust your imagination is not always an easy task. The old habits of doubting your inner visions, of letting your internal state be dictated by external conditions, are deeply ingrained. As you lie in bed, attempting to immerse yourself in your imagined reality, The voice of your rational mind may try to convince you that you're fooling yourself, that you must face reality. When this happens, do not fight against these thoughts. Simply observe them, acknowledge them, and then gently return to the feeling of your imagined state. For the war is not won by battling against what you don't want, but by persistently embodying what you do want. This persistence, this unwavering commitment to trusting your imagination in the face of contrary evidence, is what allows you to truly transform your life. Think of it like tuning a radio. When you're trying to listen to a particular station, you don't focus on eliminating all the other stations. You simply tune into the frequency you desire. In the same way, you don't need to fight against your current reality or forcefully push away unwanted conditions. You simply need to tune yourself to the frequency of your desired state, to align your entire consciousness with the person who is already living your ideal life in imagination. This tuning is done through your focused imagination and your ability to generate and maintain the feeling of your desired state being real. Your imagination is the dial that allows you to tune into different frequencies of experience. As you use your imagination to fully embody your desired state, as you feel the reality of being this version of yourself, you are tuning yourself to that frequency, allowing the corresponding experiences to flow into your life. But remember, my friends, while the inner transformation can occur in an instant, as you learn to trust your imagination, the full manifestation in your outer world may take time. The seed planted by your imaginal act will grow, but it must go through its natural stages of development. Do not be discouraged if you do not see immediate dramatic changes in your external circumstances. Know that the moment you succeeded in fully embodying your desired state in imagination, change became inevitable. As you persist in maintaining your imagined state in your daily life, you will find that your perception of yourself and your world begins to shift. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles now appear as opportunities for growth. Challenges become stepping stones to success. You begin to see yourself as the empowered, accomplished being you imagined yourself to be. Now, some of you may be wondering, but Neville, how can I ensure that I maintain my trust in my imagination? How can I prevent falling back into old patterns of thinking and feeling when confronted with unchanged circumstances? And to this I say, the power of your imagination lies not just in the intensity of the experience, but in the knowing it brings. Once you have experienced the reality of your desired state in imagination, you have tasted the truth of your divine nature. This knowing becomes an anchor, a reference point to which you can always return. In the days and weeks that follow, as you begin this practice of trusting your imagination, you may face moments of doubt or challenge when confronted with seemingly unchanged circumstances. In these moments, recall the feeling of your imagined state. Remember the reality of being the person who is already living your ideal life. Let that memory, that knowing guide you back to your desired state of being. For having experienced it once in imagination, you can again sit again and again, each time strengthening your new self-concept. The key is to make your imaginal experience as real and vivid as possible. Engage all your senses. As you lie in bed, preparing for sleep, see yourself as the person who is already living your ideal life. Hear the sounds associated with your success. Feel the textures of your new reality. Smell the sense of your achieved desires. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the fulfillment of being this version of yourself. Make it so real that your rational mind cannot distinguish between this imaginal act and physical reality. But here's a crucial point, my friends. The goal is not to imagine specific events or circumstances. The goal is to capture and embody the essence of your desired state of being. For it is this state of being that is the true attractor of your experiences. Let me illustrate this with an example. Instead of imagining a specific job offer or a particular sum of money, capture the feeling of being successful and financially abundant. Feel security, the freedom, the joy that comes with this state. See yourself moving through life with the confidence and ease of someone who is truly successful and abundant. By focusing on the state of being rather than specific outcomes, you allow the universe to bring your desires to you in ways that might far exceed your specific imaginings. You open yourself to possibilities beyond what your current mindset can conceive. This is the true power of trusting your imagination. As you practice this, you may find that your outer world begins to shift in subtle ways. Perhaps you start to feel more confident and empowered. Or you find yourself naturally making choices that align with your imagined state. Or opportunities that resonate with your new self-concept seem to appear out of nowhere. These are all signs that your inner transformation, born of trusting your imagination, is creating ripples in your outer reality. Don't discount these small changes. Celebrate them. See them as confirmation that the law is working, that your imagined state is taking root. But don't become attached to them or anxiously look for them. Simply acknowledge them with gratitude and continue to live from your imagined state, trusting in the power of your imagination to bring about even greater changes. As you persist in this practice, larger changes will begin to manifest. You may find yourself naturally attracting experiences that align with your new self-concept. You may notice that your relationships improve, that your career takes off, that your health flourishes. And as you continue to maintain your trust in your imagination, you'll discover that life becomes an exciting adventure of ever-expanding possibilities. But remember, the outer manifestation is not the ultimate goal. The goal is a state of being from which all desired experiences naturally flow. This is a crucial point, my friends. When you've truly learned to trust your imagination, when you're fully living from your imagined state, you no longer need external conditions to confirm your state. You're already whole, already complete in your knowing that you are the person you've imagined yourself to be. And paradoxically, it's in this state of inner assurance that you're most likely to experience a life that reflects your ideal self-concept. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, what about action? Don't we need to do things in the physical world to bring about change? And to this I say, yes, action is part of the process, but it's inspired action, not anxious doing. When you're living from your imagined state, ideas and opportunities will naturally present themselves to you. You'll feel inspired to take certain actions, to move in certain directions. These actions won't feel like struggle or effort. They'll feel natural, joyful, almost effortless. They will be the natural outgrowth of your new state of being, born from your trust in your imagination. This is the difference between trying to make things happen and allowing them to happen. When you're trying to force change, actions feel stressful, born out of fear and reaction to circumstances. When you're truly embodying your imagined state, actions flow naturally from your aligned state, guided by an inner wisdom that knows exactly how to bring about the manifestation of your desires. Consider the example of a seed growing into a mighty oak tree. The seed doesn't strain to become a tree. It doesn't force itself to grow. It simply unfolds naturally, expressing its innate potential. You, my dear listeners, are no different. When you learn to trust your imagination, you allow your life to unfold naturally and beautifully, expressing the infinite potential that is your birthright. But let me be clear, this state of allowing is not passive. It requires an active use of your imagination, a deliberate and focused embodiment of your desired state. It requires faith, not blind faith in external forces, but faith in the creative power of your imagination and your ability to shape your reality through your mental images. This faith is not about believing that things will change someday in the future. It's about knowing that you are who you desire to be now, in this very moment, in your imagination, and that your outer world must inevitably conform to this new inner reality. As you cultivate this faith, as you persist in living from your imagined state, you'll begin to see evidence of your transformation manifesting in your outer world. These signs may start small, a newfound confidence in a situation that would have previously intimidated you, a chance encounter that leads to an unexpected opportunity, a sudden insight that changes everything. Do not discount these signs, no matter how small they may seem, for they are confirmation that your inner transformation, born of trusting your imagination, is indeed shaping your outer reality. They are breadcrumbs leading you to the full realization of the life you are creating in your mind's eye. As we near the conclusion of our discussion, I want to address a common concern that arises when people first encounter this teaching. Many worry that trusting their imagination might lead to a disconnect from reality or irresponsible behavior. But I assure you, my friends, the opposite is true. When you truly understand the principle of trusting your imagination, you realize that you are not separate from your world. As you elevate your own consciousness by living from your imagined state, you are elevating the consciousness of all. Your personal transformation, far from disconnecting you from reality, actually expands the field of possibilities for all. Moreover, when you are coming from a place of living in your imagined state, you naturally have more to give to others. You become a beacon of possibility, a living example of the power of imagination to reshape reality. Your transformation creates a ripple effect, touching the lives of everyone you encounter with your newfound energy, confidence, and joy. This is the true gift of learning to trust your imagination. It's not just about improving your individual life, although that will happen. It's about aligning yourself with the fundamental nature of the universe, which is boundless potential and perpetual creation. It's about recognizing your own divine nature and allowing it to express itself fully through you. In this state of alignment, of living from your imagined state, you become a channel for the most beautiful expressions of life. Ideas flow to you effortlessly. Opportunities present themselves naturally. The right people and circumstances appear in your life at the perfect time. This is the magic of living from your transformed state of being, born from your unwavering trust in your imagination. But remember, this magic is not something external to you. It's not some cosmic force that you need to appease or manipulate. It is the natural expression of your own consciousness, when it's aligned with the truth of your being. You are the power. You are the magic. You are the one who has transformed yourself through the trust in your imagination. As we draw our time together to a close, I want to leave you with a final thought. The principle we've explored tonight, learn to trust your imagination, is not just a technique for personal development. It's about recognizing your true nature as a divine creative being. It's about aligning your entire being with the fundamental truth of who you are and allowing your grandest expression to flow through you. When you live from this understanding, everything changes. The world becomes a friendly place filled with infinite possibilities. You no longer see yourself as a small, separate being struggling against external forces. Instead, you recognize yourself as the author of your own life story, the creator of your own thriving reality. In this state, there's no need to fear the future or doubt your ability to create the life you desire. For you understand that you are the source of all creation in your experience. Your job is simply to maintain your imagined state, to live from that transformed consciousness, and to allow the universe to allow. So, my dear friends, as you leave here tonight, I urge you to embrace this principle with all your heart. Don't see it as a technique to be applied occasionally, but as a way of life to be lived continuously. Use your mighty imagination to immerse yourself fully in your desired state of being. Feel the naturalness of being the empowered, divine being you truly are. Live from this state, persist in this knowing, and watch as your world rearranges itself to match your inner vision. Remember, you are not a limited being struggling to improve. You are the infinite consciousness choosing to experience growth and transformation from this particular vantage point. Your imagination is the tool through which you shape your experience. Use it wisely with the awareness of your true nature and the responsibility that comes with it. Go forth and create the fulfilling, joyous life that is your birthright, knowing that with each imaginal act, each moment of trust in your imagination, you are aligning more fully with the truth of limitless nature.